Hello, Juan. Anna, where are you in the city? That's cool. Nice. It's still snowing there? Crazy. Here in Rimrock, it starts getting warmer. We just came back from Diamond Mountain and it was amazing trip. Very tiring for me as well, like energy wise, expensive. I don't know how to say, but very, very amazing. Now, just yesterday, I think I got just a little bit sick, very little, nothing big, but Rob Haggerty also told me that he was feeling like maybe some runny nose or something. But anyways, I have what I need to survive the class. Look, toilet paper. Emergency number one. Tool number one for emergencies. Yes, I think today we don't have Ukrainian, so Gina say is not set up, but I think it's just one of those days. She's here. Who? Let me see. Interpreted. Ah, Maria. Hello, Maria. Thank you so much. Okay, let me set up the Ukrainian then. One moment. Update. Okay, thank you, thank you. Yes, Maria Ivashenko. And thank you, Ngoan. Also, I set you up as Vietnamese interpreter channel. Thank you to all of you recording. And Milan also. Then she shares the. And Gina, thank you so much for also coming today. Anna as well for all the help and support in the chat. Okay, so let me show you something. One of the reasons I was talking about Diamond Mountain is because during the program we had a G-box that was based on the text that we have been using lately on the preface for Praise of Dependence, which is this opening pages of the new book Geshe released. Actually, it's funny because I have pictures for it, so I'm gonna show you. Okay. I'm gonna share my screen. To share. Oh, wait. Let's you. This one too, just in case. Okay, sharing screen. Duck. Okay. So this is the book, the new one of the. Actually, it's interesting that so many books have been released these days. This is one of the new books that Geshe, together with Diamond Cutter Press, Rosa Van Grieken, they just finished translated. And this is the book called Praise of Dependent Events. The opening lines is what we have been using for this few last session presentation. And then it was surprising to me that that was the content that the G-Box, Rob Haggerty and Gibson were using for their presentation. And it was amazing. It's really a great presentation. It was 3 sessions. I'm gonna try to find for you the poster for that so you can see. But also, it's not only that the content was amazing. I think the way they presented Gibson and Rob Haggerty was very, very nice. They deliver very well. Their energy in the during the sessions was very fun, very engaging, and that helps as well. You know, sometimes how we deliver the content is as important as the content we deliver. I mean, in a way, just how to say, the content should be correct, but the way we present it is also super, super important. And I'm trying to find, probably all of you are familiar with that, but yeah, okay, I have it here. I just want you to see the posters so you get a picture in your mind of what event it was. Unfortunately, certain countries, well, what happened is that this event was inside one of the 5 houses event. And sometimes these kind of events have a more like traditional looking. So some countries don't support the former ACI, what's now transforming to 5 houses. The idea is once it transformed to 5 houses, there are very important changes that will make it suitable for pretty much all the countries. But this teaching was inside one of those events, so there were some countries that were not able to access it. As far as I understand, the way to access this particular session is you can sign up on the online platform. It's for free, really. You just sign up, get the course, and you can watch the recordings. But just so you know, the interesting thing is that it's exactly the same topics. They also added a few things, very, very cool things, like Rob started adding a little bit of what kind of practices can help us to see dependent events faster. Now, dependent events now is the new terminology that Geshe Michael is encouraging us to use to talk about what historically we know as dependent origination. But now he almost says that the word dependent origination hurts his ears. I mean, he's joking, but he says that the wording, well, technically the wording has some problems because he says dependent origination creates a feeling that the thing that it's being originated or created is a changing thing that starts, peaks, and then start to decay and then stops. And in a way, that's correct. We have studied here in this course. That's correct for 99% of things that exist, things that are changing things that are changing 99% of things. Remember, we have 2 categories of existence. We have existence. I have the map there, but we have existence and we have changing and unchanging things. And it's interesting that unchanging things, most of them are absences. We'll talk about that some other time. There is traditionally also this idea that some facts and archetypes can be considered unchanging, although that triggers a debate in different logic schools. But in the other side, the changing things, remember, are divided in 3: physical, mental, and the extra category, which is things that are changing, which are not physical nor mental.
Sorry, Juan. Can you set up Rush interpreter?
Okay, yes. Yay, thank you. Let me see. I was sharing screen, so I was not looking at the chat. Who's Natalia? Okay, yes. Thank you so much. One moment. Interpretation. Thank you, Gina. Gina is staying in Diamond Mountain because she's getting ready to do a long retreat. 1 month, right, Gina? So, best wishes. Okay. Natalia, Maria, Juan. Okay. Excellent. So where were we at in the division of changing things? Yes, that's another interesting thing that, I mean, we keep talking about this, but lately I had an example when it's so important to use this principle of, I mean, in a way, when you are in a debate or when you are in especially in the topics of logic of Pramana, every single word that you use matters. Well, I have two examples, and both happened to them recently to me. Sorry, both happened to me recently. It's different if I say there are three kinds of categories for changing things, and I say things that are physical, things that are mental, and things that are not physical nor mental. Yes, in a way that's correct, but if you want to be more precise and really be on the safe side of things, you should say there are three categories of things that are changing. You should say things that are changing and are physical, or physical things that are changing, physical things that are, no, mental things that are changing, or changing things that are mental, and changing things that are not physical nor mental. Because what's the problem here? If I only say physical things, mental things, and things that are nor physical nor mental, in the third category, someone could come and say, oh, yeah, okay. What about empty space? Or what about emptiness? Because check it out. Technically speaking, emptiness is a thing that is not physical and not mental. Empty space is something that is not physical and is not mental. Why is not physical? Because you cannot perceive it with your senses, with your five senses. Why is not mental? Because it's not, it's not knowing. For something to be mental, it has to be aware. It has to know something. That's why I say mind and the mental functions are things that are mental traditionally. So if you don't add, or at least if you're not aware that we are talking about a subcategory of things that are changing, and you just mentioned nor physical nor mental, it could allow things that are not correct to have in that subcategory. But in a way is assume that when we say things that are not physical nor mental, we are already agree that we are talking about changing things. So if you say changing things that are not physical nor mental, that excludes emptiness, that excludes empty space, because those two are not changing things. So you already cancel them. And then we can allow things. The classical example is mental seeds, karmic seeds. And because they say they are not physical, it's not that you can grab them with your hand and put them in a bag. But at the same time, they say they are not mental because the seeds themselves are not aware. So they say they are more like a potential, like a form of, I don't even understand, like energy, but not really, because energy could be subtle energy, but a potential. But it's a classical example of something, something changing that is not physical and not mental, on the third category of changing things. Okay, that happened recently. It was a interesting discovery for me. But 2 days ago, something else happened recently, and I want to share with you as well. One moment. Oh, well. One moment. Here. This happened. Ben Kramer, together with his wife, Kendra, they started this very cool course on debate just 2 days ago. The timing is a little difficult. Here it doesn't say, but it starts at 9 a.m. Arizona time. And it goes for 1 hour. It's going to be during 10 weeks, once a week on Wednesdays. Wednesdays, well, I'm talking Arizona time. So Wednesday at 9 p.m. at night, Arizona time. Maybe in different zones of Europe, Asia, it's going to be difficult timing. But luckily, it seems that the recordings are going to be available. And it was amazing. They took us through the general rules of debate. Probably many of you already know, especially focusing on the three relationships. Well, the three parts of the syllogism, which is the topic we're going to talk about, the assertion, or what we want to say about the thing, you see? And number three, the reason why we claim number two. So, I don't know. Ben Kramer, consider Ben Kramer. That's the topic, number one. What are we going to say about him? He did a very good class, number two. And I have to give a reason why I'm making that claim or that statement. Number three, I will say because he delivered very helpful and relevant information. So we have those three. I'm going to see if later we can borrow some of his PPTs because it was amazing. And we can definitely use them too. The topic is super suitable for these sessions as well. But before we move on to what I wanted to do today, I just wanted to give you this context. I'm just giving you a quick recap and recommending you, if you have the chance, either come live. Like, I don't know, I think it was like 120 people came. It was very, very cool. Right now, the idea he has is only English speaking. He's not including translation, although that may change. But what he wanted to do is to train people in English, and then people who speak other languages as well can start training other language communities. But let's see what happens. But anyways, before I move on, let me just finish this real quick. We talk about these three elements of a syllogism in a debate. And then we talk about the three relationships to make sure it's a good syllogism, a syllogism or a statement that is correct. Sometimes they say a syllogism that holds. So these three elements, just to be brief, is the proofs is like one has to be three, in the sense that if we say number one is Ben Kramer, consider Ben Kramer, and number three was, the reason I gave for two is he shared with us very helpful and relevant information. Is that true? Is that true that Ben Kramer shared very valuable and helpful information? I think yes, so let's say yes, it's true. Okay, that holds. That means it's good. How say we check, go to the next test. The next test is if two, then three. So number two is he did a very good class. So if he did a very good class, does that mean that he delivered very relevant and helpful information? And here is where the trick starts, because Geshe Michael, Geshe, he says that a very good debater will immediately try to find a counterexample. So is there a possibility where someone could give a very good class, but at the same time having not shared helpful and relevant information? Probably not. Now that I'm thinking about it, probably not, because one of the, for those of you who have studied the foundation courses, do you remember there are some qualifications for a good teaching? And I think, if I remember correctly, I may be mistaken, but one of those qualifications is that the teaching help sentient beings. So in a way, that means that for a teaching to be a good teaching, the content has to be of help for at least some sentient beings. Although someone could argue that, oh, you never say a good Buddhist teaching, you just say a good teaching, a good class. So it's debatable. And right now we are not gonna go so deep into it, but I just wanted to show you the relationships. And number three, relationships. So quick recap. Number one is number three, that pass. If two, then three. I mean, in this case, I will say it pass. And the third proof is if not three, then not two. So if it will be to say, if he didn't share helpful and relevant information, then it was not a good class. And again, I know it's debatable, so I'm not saying it's the definitive answer, but just for practical purposes, let's say, yes, it also holds. So then that would make this statement, this whole syllogism, a good syllogism. And that's what we practice, but I learned a lot. And then actually my team, we made a syllogism that I thought was correct, and then Ben Kramer destroyed me. Super fun. I learned a lot by making mistakes. I recommend you, if you can come or check it out. But today, excuse me one sec, we still have about 30 minutes, and I wanted us to keep going and finish the preface of a price of dependence events. One moment, I gonna blow my nose, excuse me. Okay, let's go to it. Okay. I'm just gonna take you quickly through the slides, maybe refresh memory. We have here the book that we are using as the source of content. In the text, Geshe, I should show you as well this real quick. Okay, yes. Okay, so this is the text we use. It's an email. I have told you a few times. Geshe sends the email, and these are the opening pages or the first pages of the book, the preface. Amazing, amazing text. You can find it if you want to look at it. You can find it in the Google Drive that I share in the Telegram and WhatsApp groups. So first, Geshe starts talking about this history or this book. It's a commentary on Jetson Kappa, Praise of Dependence. So Jetson Kappa writes a book talking about how cool this process or this, the fact that things in the world exist through dependence to this process of dependent events. And I didn't finish the idea before. Now I'm realizing Geshe encourages us to call it dependent events because it pretty much covers also the unchanging objects, everything. It covers because the word event gives the feeling that it happens, but it doesn't necessarily needs to start, peak, decay, and stop, which happens to changing things. But to unchanging things, they just come into existence and go out of existence. If you guys have questions, you can put them in the chat. I hope the thing is like, maybe I'm giving too much context for things that you already know, so no need to go into them. But also the possibilities that I'm not giving enough context for, I don't know, if somebody's here for first time or anything, but you can say in the chat. Okay, so now Geshe talks about the life of Jetson Kappa a little bit and why, wait. I need to set up another interpretation. Vietnamese. Yeah. Recording. Oh, Grace. Okay. Thank you, Grace, for helping. Okay, I'll show you again. So he tells that a lot of the history of Jetson Kappa's life can be found in this book, King of the Dharma. Amazing, amazing book. And I make this just a QR in case you want to get it. So first Geshe talks about the pen and how important is to have this clarity on what's emptiness and what is not emptiness. So he talks a little bit about that. Then he talks a little bit about, in one hand, we talked about it often. We have two sides of the coin, but now Geshe uses the cell phone. Like this is emptiness. This represents emptiness, and this represents dependence, seeds, or now called dependent events. I hope you can see. And basically, Geshe gives us advices on how to practice on daily life so we can have this experience of the pot on the stove. Very, very famous story when Geshe saw dependent events directly, how things or how events exist or happen in dependence. Dependence on what, you may ask? And this is interesting. Different schools of philosophy give different explanations for what things depend on, but they all agree that things depend on other things. So you see, it's very interesting because all schools will agree that things are not self-existent because they depend on other things in order to exist. But those things that they depend on, are described differently by different schools. But actually, it's like they add to each other. Some schools say, oh yeah, things depend on causes and conditions. And some schools say, yes, that's true, but they also depend on their parts. Oh yeah, that's true, but they also depend on labels that you put. Oh yeah, and where those labels come from? Oh, they come from, Geshe say these days, they come from luminous images that come from karmic seeds that are planted by how we treat others in the past. So eventually, the highest schools say things depend on karmic seeds, on mental seeds. That's why many times we just say, we jump right away there, but just so you know, other schools have this idea that they depend on other things, which the highest school also accepts. But they say at the end of the day, every single other thing that things depend on also depends on karmic seeds. So that's what they say that. And funny enough, again, karma and emptiness support each other. Because in a way, if things were not empty, they could not exist through dependence. But if things didn't exist through dependence, they will not be empty. So it's like, it's almost to say that even karma and emptiness depend on each other. And then some other time we can talk about the emptiness of emptiness, which is also a very, very interesting topic. But we may get there. Let's go, because otherwise time will run out. Okay, Geshe give us this advice for activities to succeed and to have ourselves this experience directly. Number one, to develop this attitude to serve people around us on daily basis, just a general natural attitude to be helping, serving, and kind of design our life. So this is an ingredient that is constant and present on our life. Then this ability to meditate in deep concentration for 1 hour. Geshe says that we should build up little by little. He says start with 5 minutes, add 1 minute every week. By the end of 1 year, you will have built up to 1 hour of concentration. Then, very important in the text, he mentions finding and serving a teacher, which was an element of interest to me during the G-Box course. Rob Haggerty and Gibson keep talking about a different perspective, because this time they didn't talk much about finding or creating a teacher. They talk about identifying a teacher, which is interesting. We can talk about that later as well, but the flavor on this identifying a teacher, it almost sounds that the teachers are around us already. We just have to discover them or realize, identify them. It was an interesting flavor. We can talk about it, but the idea is to find one or identify one that, of course, they mention the way we do that is by planting the seeds of kindness, teaching others what we know, taking care of other people. We plant the seeds to find our own teachers. And, well, it says make commitments to work with them. Tremendous, tremendous source of virtue. Then number 4, study these topics very diligently. And traditionally, what they say is especially, I mean, at the end of the day, I really think we need everything. But also traditionally, many times it's emphasized that one of the topics that triggers the direct perception of dependent events and the direct perception of emptiness is Chichedrak. Okay, we look at the emptiness lineage we did that. We talk about Chichedrak. We can talk about that again later. Today, I'm just gonna move fast. The idea between a Chi, luminous image, archetype, and Chedrak, an object that is characteristic of that Chi. So Chi Chedrak has 3 different ways of being translated and 3 different ways of being used. One is general and specific. That's one way. The other way is set and subset, or like group and subgroup. And the other one is quality and characteristic. And I think there is a deep connection between these 3. But yeah, Chi in this case is this mental picture, the archetype, and Chetrak is an object that possesses the picture. You can also say the label. We can and we should talk more about it again, but for now I'm just gonna keep going. We talked about this, how many different objects, although you see each one of them is different, they all have carness. They all possess or hold the quality of car. They all hold, somehow in them you can find this archetype or mental picture, even though each one is different. So it's difficult to point what exactly makes them be representative or characteristic of car, quotes. But all these objects are. Yeah, we talk about the relationship between the mental picture Chi and the word car. Talk about Chedrak and what it means to possess carness. And then we talked about the pot in the stove and the parts or raw data of the pot in the stove. Silver, rounded, colors and shapes, black, long, where those things come from, how they are there giving us information, and then our mental picture wraps around them and creates the object like chocolate sauce on top of vanilla ice cream sundae. And how we create that chocolate sauce, again, is that we create, the laws of karma, the laws of mental seeds. 4 laws. One of them is similar, creates similar. So if you want to see abundance in the world, share more of what you have. Although there are some correlations that are not that evident, at least for me at first, but we can talk about correlation one day as well. That'll be fun. Let's keep going. We talk about, yes, these colors and shapes. And there's the recordings. If you ever want to watch how we talk about these things in a more paused and, how to say, formal way, you can watch the recordings. We did talk about middle way in the sense that not to fall into the extreme that, oh, because things are coming from luminous images out of karmic seeds that are created by how I treated people in the past. That means things are only in my mind or they don't really exist in that way. And that's an extreme of nihilism. We should not go there because things work. And they work as we have noticed our whole life. They function. And some schools of thought say the correct way to say it is things work because they come out of our seeds. Some people say things work. No, some people say things come out of our seeds, but they still work. And Geshe, and actually in the book, The King of the Dharma, he says that some Geshes will hit you with the rosary and say, no, that's wrong. You should not say things are coming from seeds, but they work. You should say things are coming from seeds, and that's why they work. There is a deep teaching on that, and we can review that some other time. Okay, we talk about, yes, everything's coming from that, including me, including you. But the idea of me, that's another super interesting topic for later. I feel I'm just starting to understand more about it. I mean, I have so much more to learn, but it's interesting. This idea of me, who I believe I am, and especially if I use my name, let's say Juan, the character that I have built around the idea of Juan, who I am, who Juan is very interesting because it really doesn't exist out there. It's only a construct I have done. And that one, and really everything, even the physical, but this idea of the character Juan is definitely coming from my seeds as well. Very interesting. We can talk about that, but this is very relevant because in a way, that's why we can change. And in a way, that's why we can reach the highest potential and use it to help everyone in the universe, because the emptiness of that character. Okay, so we talk about the process, the mental seed, luminous images, the archetype. How does that seed gets created? By how we treated it, but by how we treat others in the past. And because we say similar creates similar, let's say if we want more pots, we share our pots, we put seeds of pots, luminous images of pots come out, and then we see pots. We also did talk about it. Luminous neon picture in the text, Geshe talks about it. How this is kind of a luminous neon picture. Probably not this colorful, I don't know, but it's just a representation. Then the luminous image travels to the pot, and then we can actually use the pot. Same with the car. This is the chi, the luminous image that travels. Well, that's also a little debatable if the chi is actually the luminous images or is the content of the luminous image. But anyway, let's say the archetype is there as a chi, luminous image comes out. The luminous image grabs around the parts, the colors and shapes, let's say, the raw data. And then we have the actual object that we use in daily life that actually works and functions. Same with the car. Boop, boop, boop. We can drive the car, we can prepare tea, but this is the process of how they come to exist. Yeah, sharing pots. Planted by exactly how I treated others in the past, sharing. Boop. We talked about this question some time ago. Ola was asking in the chat, Ola Turchin, about the raw data. Geshe talks about it too. And yes, okay, finally, for the last 10 minutes, we can talk about new content. And it's connected with the idea of raw data. Funny that by this point, we cover like almost, I would say, 85 or 90% of the text that Geshe wrote. But then in the last few verses, I found so much content that extended the PPT a lot. But if you try to identify the text, I'll try to show you. By this time, I show you all these pictures. By this time, look how many pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages. By now, we are here. Almost 2 pages to go. So 80% we did. And again, if you want to read the text, I encourage you. You can follow along with the pictures if that's helpful. Dun, 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 dun. So we were talking about where these parts come from. And lately I hear Geshe saying that these parts, of course, they also come from same thing, luminous images that come from karmic seeds that are treated how we treated others in the past. But he says sometimes this process is so fast and so subtle that when he shares the experience of seeing the pot in the stove, he said there must have been a similar process of the whole pot happening together with the parts, but the mind didn't catches that. He said when he had the experience, it seemed as if black and silver are rounded and black were already there, and he was putting them together with this pot archetype, with the mental picture of pot. But he said he knows that the same process was actually happening for the parts themselves, for the raw data. Round was coming out of the karmic seeds and luminous images, silver color, black color, and this long shape. And by now, actually, it's funny that the title of these Pramana sessions, it started because of this first G box Adam and I did called The Emptiness of Colors. And then there we tried to prove how even raw data, it's empty as well. And the debates start with the emptiness of colors. Very interesting. We, after this text, I'm thinking we definitely should spend some time with Adam's first book again and with the debates and all that. But okay, and one of the proofs Geshe says, traditional proof, is in the Geshe universities, the teacher that like, okay, raise your left hand. Try to point at something, try to find something that is not coming from your seeds. Again, from these from these luminous images coming from karmic seeds planted by how we treated others in the past. And we look and we look and we look and we cannot find anything really, which is a very interesting, it does has a lot of implications. And I will say again, Geshe says, a good debater will try to find something. So I encourage you, try to find something, or at least try to find the most controversial thing. Something that maybe is not coming from your seeds. Excuse me, I'm going to. Okay. Connect a Russian translator. I think we did. Okay, everything's good. I was checking the chat. Okay. So what happened next? How things work. Luminous images work, and now we know how. We must share. That's the thing. After we have this experience of on the pod, on the stove that we talked about, that was the direct perception of dependence, the direct perception of dependent events. And that in itself, it gives us the clarity on how things exist. Now, it's very important to make this distinction. That is not yet the direct perception of emptiness, but that's actually the precursor of the direct perception of emptiness. In one way, when we talk about these two sides of the same phone or two sides of the same coin, karma and emptiness, dependent events and emptiness, in one hand, we are talking about how things exist, and in the other hand, we are talking about how things don't exist. One is an absence, one is a denying thing, and the other one is a presence, it's an affirmation. So by now, we have understood, by having this experience of dependent events, we have understood how things work and how things are, how things exist. And here the lesson is, if we want to get those things we like or we need or whatever, we must share, because that's the way they work. So you see this guy sharing his car very happily because he knows it's very important to have cars to go around these days. So that's why he's letting other people drive the car. Okay, and now the job is done. That's the thing. Geshe talks into the text that once you see dependent events happening, it's like 100% guarantee that in the next 2 or 3 hours, you will have the direct perception of emptiness. And why I put this picture, because it's in a way example. I was thinking like, what could be similar? And then I thought, okay, it's like a person jumps out of the cliff, then the job is done 100%. He will get wet. You see, there is no way back. I mean, of course, this is just an example. If you are a good debater, you can say, no, but what if, I don't know, a gigant eagle comes and grabs him before he falls into the ocean? Well, yes, I know there's like ways that this could be prevented, but it's just an example, analogy, to say it will happen. This guy already jumped, it will get into the water, 100% sure. And in that way, if you see the dependent event experience, the pot on the stove, 100% you will see emptiness directly in the next few minutes or moments in the next few hours. It's funny because Geshe even say that it's almost like because our whole existence is coming out of seeds, and you reach this point, it's almost like the whole universe is going to work on your favor, so you see emptiness directly. And he almost say that it's impossible, you cannot die. He was even joking that if you had this perception of emptiness, you could stand on the middle of the road, or you could do anything, and the cars will not hit you. I don't know, it sounds like very amazing, right? But it's almost like guaranteed, like during those 2-3 next hours, you will not die, nothing will happen to you. The only thing that's gonna happen to you is you're gonna see emptiness directly, which is very interesting. I don't quite yet understand fully this idea, but it's very amazing to think about it. In a way, it has to be true. If it's true that the events around you are coming from seeds, then it's possible that, I don't know how to say, even if you try to jump from a building, you will not, something will happen. There is going to be a police person that's going to prevent you to jump, or I don't know. But the job is done. Once you have that experience, next thing is going to happen for you is emptiness directly. And then you will go into deep meditation. And it's funny because this is the guy, but then I asked, like, no, give me a good meditation posture. I was talking to ChatGPT, and then he gave me this lady, and it was amazing, excellent. The 7th posture meditation, you see. But let's imagine that this guy was also using this beautiful lady's posture, which is traditionally known as the 7-point posture of Vairachana. All right, and then you meditate, and then boom, you see emptiness directly. And why is this? This is a very famous teaching Geshe gives us about, he calls it the discovery card. It's a very interesting teaching. Probably we will have to give this for later. I'll tell you quickly, and next time we can catch up from here. We're almost done, but I find this last part so deep. There are many, many pictures on it. But basically the story is this, that there is this person who invites their friends for dinner or something. And then once the check comes, time to pay, this person put his hand in the pocket thinking that the credit card is there, and then realizes that it's not there. The pocket is empty, it's not there. So it's like, so surprising. But then there is another element to this story that makes it very, very interesting. Geshe tells the story that the card that this person was looking for, in United States, there are some credit cards called discovery cards. And Geshe says that these cards are very lousy, like many restaurants don't even accept these cards. So there is a very interesting reason why Geshe say the card this guy was looking for, it was a discovery card, one of those lousy cards that the restaurant will not take anyways. So he tries to reach out, there is nothing there, but even in the case that the card was there, he will not be able to use it. And why is this? I will tell you just quickly, you can think about it, and then we stop. It's because this is exactly what emptiness is empty of, is the gaksha, an impossible object that could not actually even work in reality. You see, when we talk about emptiness, and that's why I wrote this here, because we should talk about it, at least in this context, in these sessions. We need to talk about what is that emptiness refers to. We all say, oh yeah, things are empty, but it's very important to ask ourselves, what are things empty of? What is it that the thing is empty? Oh, this is a very good example I like to use. I hope you can see this cup of water. I'll stop here. Yeah, so if I say this cup is empty, you could say, no, it's not empty. It has water. It's full of water. Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. What I mean is this cup is empty of self-nature. Ah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's full of water, but it's empty of self-nature. That's okay. So that's what objects are empty of. When we say emptiness, is this absence of a self-nature, of a self-existent object. And the self-existent object is also called gaksha in West Chinese language. So a gaksha, it's an impossible object that it has different characteristics, right? Like, for example, one of them is it doesn't change, it doesn't depend of anything. If it doesn't change, then it cannot perform a function. It has different requisites, which is very important. We should study also the gaksha. And then the funny thing is that even if we could find in the universe an object like that, a gaksha object, it will not be able to work. It will not be able to perform any function. That's what they say gakshas are. Two things in this case. They don't exist, but they are impossible to exist. It's not only that they don't exist, it's like they could not even exist. They could not function in this world. And that's why Geshe uses the example of the discover card. Because it's not only that the card is not there. Yes, it's true, the card is not in the pocket. But even if the card was there, the restaurant will say, no, no, we don't take that kind of card. It's like the gaksha. The gaksha is not here with us. It's not in our pocket of reality. But even if it was there, we could not do anything with it. It could not work at all because gakshas cannot work because of the definition of them. So I hope this little by little keeps bringing clarity, and it may be confusing, but just keep chewing on it. Little by little, we'll keep moving on or forward. And then, of course, if you have questions, we can talk about them either here or in the chat. Thank you so much because time has run out. Thank you, translators. I hope I didn't give you a hard time. Just hard one, not too hard. Just kidding. But yeah, I just for good luck, I will show you a few more pictures that I made. We're gonna see about these, where things come from, where they don't. Okay, this is just to plant seeds. Okay, you saw the pictures. There's more coming up. But today we stop here. Yay. All right, and thank you. Yes, to the translators, to the people recording, and also for your interest. And for the opportunity, because when I prepare these materials, I learn a lot and it's really helpful for me. I learn and thank you so much. So see you next time. We'll keep going next Friday. We are so close to finish. If you can try, you can come to Ben Kramer's session. If you find it interesting and you're available, you can try. And I'll share also the link for the recordings in the chats. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Tomorrow we have translation classes with Geshe. You know about that. It's Saturday. Now the time has changed. 11 a.m. Arizona time. Okay, see you next time. Thank you so much. I see Natalia, Maria, Ana, Juan, and Wong. Thank you so much. Yay.